Great. Okay, great. Good evening. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Bellflower City Council. It is Monday, November 23rd, 2020. We are reconvening for open session. There is no reportable action to report that was taken during closed session. This evening, we have one public hearing item on city code sections governing signs in our city. We have no ordinances, no resolutions for consideration. We do have one item for consideration on the California Cities for Local Control, and we have 5 items this evening on our consent calendar. It is 7:04 by my watch, and I am calling this meeting in order. Before we begin, please note that all public we have no ordinances, no resolutions for consideration this evening. Item 13A, Mr. Stewart.
This is a consideration of possible action to adopt resolution number 20-74, a resolution supporting the goals of the organization of local government entities called California Cities for Local Control.
Thank you for that, Mrs. Stewart. So on this one, it's a request that was made at my request. I think from past comments that we made on the city council, the overreach that Sacramento has upon local jurisdictions is, I think it's acknowledged and established, and it seems to be increasingly happening. And I think as local officials, it's a concern. Again, this council has in the past expressed that as well. And so there's an emerging organization called California Cities for Local Control, made up of local elected officials and cities as well, where it's an organization that wants to, in a sense, essentially reclaim that level of control that we have here at the local level regarding our future and our development. Because I think we feel as local officials that we are more in tune with what our local electorate wishes for their cities, our city, to develop as, rather than legislators that are in Sacramento, which aren't here every day. And so this organization is reaching out to local elected officials like us and cities to see if we would be in support of their efforts. And so having done some initial research on the organization, this is it is a non-binding resolution. It's just us supporting this concept. And so I present this to you gentlemen for your consideration if you feel comfortable that the city would join in something like this. There are, as of right now, there are over 200 local electeds in support of this concept, and over 30 cities have already passed the resolution, like the one we're considering this evening. And there are an additional 25 cities that are in process of also adopting a similar resolution like us this evening. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions as you consider this. Let's start off with Councilmember Dutton.
I'm in. It's a very good start. I'm really glad, Mayor, that you brought this to us to review, and I think it's written well. You just didn't have anything in here about pandemics, but we can get that another day.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Councilmember Dutton. Councilmember Santinez.
Thank you, Mayor, and I also commend you for bringing this to the City Council. And I totally agree with the concerns that you express about Sacramento trying to grab local control. One thing I want to clarify with you, maybe you can put some kind of clarification in this. I tried to look at the website, and I could not find a website for this group, so I could not get any information about it. So because I'm trying to find what cities and who are the electeds, can you name us a few cities that are, or is that still not available?
Great question. No, it's some of the cities, so the website is developing, and so that should be up and running hopefully within the next month. It really is a grassroots efforts from electeds, and so some of the cities that have already joined are City of Arcadia, the City of Manhattan Beach, the City of Beverly Hills, the City of see, I believe Pomona is in it.
Any of our neighboring cities?
Pandora, neighboring cities. It's a nascent effort. Like I spoke with the mayor Whittier early today, and they are also in the process of they're not there yet, but they are one of the ones that are in process. And it's been an effort that hasn't been like a League of California Cities where they have like an effort, all cities at once. It's not like that. It's almost like they're getting the word out little by little. So neighboring cities, to my memory, recollection, none of them come to mind, to be frank.
Okay.
But that's not to say that maybe they haven't. I just don't have any in front of me right now that I can recollect. And in of 200 officials, we have again numerous mayors, numerous council members, over 200. And I know that I have a picture of some of the names I can read off.
Yeah, that's okay. I think you gave us a good example. And my second question is, administratively, is the goal to have something similar to the League of California Cities?
No.
Or conduct cities? Or what's going to be the mechanism to advocate for local control?
Good question. So it's not an effort to create an additional association. It's really more of a joint esprit de corps, like where all these cities have this unity in their opposition to Sacramento's continued intrusion in local affairs. But it's not an effort where it's going to create like an executive director member fees or anything like that. It's literally going to be just all these cities collectively submitting all their resolutions to Sacramento to be submitted to them, so them to know, for our legislators in Sacramento to know the way we feel and to start a dialogue. But it's nothing organized to where the end goal is to create something like a JPA.
So what I'm getting at is, so there's no assessment, so to speak.
Correct. There's no assessments of any kind at this point in time, and I that's one of the things that I think Mr. Stewart is that we actually included the first draft of this. Had language of like joining a JPA, which is it's not, so we struck that. But I also he and I ensured that it included language that we are in support of this concept as currently organized. So if for some reason this starts evolving into something in that direction, we can separate and say, you know what, we support you, but we're not there. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Or not. It depends on how effective they're going to be and what issues they take on. If they're going to take on and be effective in dealing with some of the development issues we're having, I'd be all in to do that, because right now we don't have a voice there. And I think this is the direction they may be heading. So it's more of an experiment to see which way it's going to go right now.
Yeah. Well, I said, it's a well-thought resolution. The only minor recommendation I'm going to make is on C, section 1C, ADU, it should be accessory dwelling unit instead of adult. I want to make sure that yes, we're a team here, so I'm just trying to because we want to make it look good.
Thank you. Very duly noted, and we'll have that amended, absolutely. So.
Okay, very good. Thank you again.
No, thank you for this. Always great questions, Councilman Centinez. Up next, Mayor Pro Tem Coops.
Yes. So would you say that the things that the cities would want to have a voice in would be primarily with zoning issues, like with Senator Weiner when Weiner came down here and had ideas on how we should change things around? Would that be the primary focus, or is that hard to say?
You know what, frankly, it's hard to say. I know that over
That's
the
one
last...
of the primary motivators, but it could go beyond.
Because that's what we really felt as cities, that we were being imposed upon.
Well, but see, there are a lot of encroachments into local control. I mean, quite honestly, and the legislature is taking more and more ownership of it. And you know, I've mentioned that to you many times, how, you know, instead of coming in to ask you what you're doing now, the legislators come down from Sacramento and say, well, how come you're not doing this for me? I mean, there's a very definite ownership and top-down approach from Sacramento that I think is a mindset that needs to be wrestled back from local governments. And if this is a grassroots effort that can help do that, I'm all in, and I think it's absolutely worth pursuing. And if Weiner's bills and development efforts are the one that triggers this response, great. I mean, I think it's long overdue, because it's just a strange mindset how we've become sort of complacent and used to it. And we've always grumbled about it, but it's getting worse. The lobster is getting boiled a little bit at a time. You know, is what's happening here. brought this to me. I said, yeah. I mean, I think, look, do I think this is gonna have any effect? I have no idea. I have no idea at all. But if we're throwing a brick through the window, it's probably not a bad thing to do. So I think it's probably worth doing.
I think, again, I think the current, the more recent nexus has been development, as you mentioned, but there's nothing in here that prevents us from, like, if this evolves in our local control with regards to other topics end up coming up, that this would just be exclusive to development. It could be anything where we feel that.
I mean, Torrance, this comes from a council member in Torrance, and Torrance has a lot of issues. I mean, starting with marshlands and oil and all sorts of issues that they're fighting with Sacramento about. So it could, from that perspective, it could spin off anywhere from their perspective. But if there's an issue that we like that we want to glom onto, it might be an effective mechanism. At least we can rattle the chain and get some support for it.
So when we are a member of contract cities or the League of Cities, that this is not what they do for us, so we need to go a different direction? I mean, when we're a member of a group of cities that are working on our behalf, this is not what they're about to do.
It's just different. It's
a different way of applying.
Different way of approaching it.
Okay.
Yeah, just another voices. I mean, in short answer to your question, what I think you're answering is, do the League of California Cities and the contract cities meet some of the specific things that these guys want to get addressed? No, they're not. And that's why they're forming this group as more as a grassroots effort. The League, as you know, we've talked about this over and over again, they talk to Wiener, they engage Wiener, they seek to engage Wiener constructively. I'm not sure that's a good course of action. And some of the stuff he's proposing is just downright insane. And, maybe we don't want to interact with him constructively. Maybe we want to, start letting him know we're not happy with this at all. And the residents aren't happy with it. So, I mean, he's talking about density issues that would just be murderous to some of these cities down here. So, I mean, I think that's what started some of this up.
So what are the mechanics? How would this work when you have a group of people that are thinking as cities would, different from Sacramento? How is that able to, you convey or change the ideas in Sacramento? How does that work? Do you go up there and solicit them? Do you call them to a meeting in the city? How does that,
So the way these things usually go is there's a series of bills that come through. I mean, Gonzalez makes us aware of, hundreds of bills every month that go through to start the process up in Sacramento. A number of these bills are just bad legislation.
All right.
And most of them don't catch fire, some do. But if you've got a bad bill that's catching fire, you want to get some cohorts and people up there that express your point of view. This gives us yet another option to get some folks that may be like-minded saying, we don't like this bill. And you start getting, 15 letters instead of one to a committee on a specific bill, it may have more impact. Okay. What's happening is that cities, we look toward our lobbying agents, i.e. contract cities and League of California Cities, to do their work on behalf of us. They don't. They work for a greater whole. They have all sorts of issues. They're balancing issues up and down the state with, hundreds of members. They can't possibly do this. But if you've got cities that of the 20, 30 cities of like-minded folks that, you can ask for a favor and they'll do that for you. They'll mail in letters of support for an issue you care about. Mm-hmm. And maybe it catches fire. Maybe the league starts paying attention to it or not. But what happens is the legislation goes through, or a portion of it goes through, and we're stuck with it. Nobody's really paid attention. The whole diligence and resilience in watching the legislature, it's kind of a fading art. And there used to be every city, when I started in this business, every city had administrative analysts that looked at these bills day to day. Boom, 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 boom. Nobody has that anymore. Nobody funds that kind of staff level to review those bills and make recommendations to city council and what to oppose or not. So what's happened is advocacy is falling behind.
Okay. Oh,
that's just the bottom line.
I'm fine. Let's do it. Yeah. I just had to figure it out what we're doing. I don't need any redundancy,
Yeah, no, you're right.
The last thing you want to do is build another bureaucracy. You have no interest in developing another league or contract cities or independent cities or anything else.
Well, then, I was surprised to learn, I didn't even know the deal that Sam Alavito is a part of. Is that
independent cities? Yeah,
exactly. I never knew that existed.
And I don't think there's any fire in the belly to develop another organization like that out of this or any other group. So we're not going to do that.
All right. Well, that was my only concern. And like Sonny, what is it going to cost? Yeah.
No, and again, there's no cost involved.
Right.
It's more just really just in spirit And if it evolves, then we have the option of being able to.
And
And
it's statewide.
we're not obligated to a certain point of view. I mean, for instance, these guys get off on a tether and they want to advocate for something entirely stupid. We don't have to do that. We can stake our own territory here, you know.
But we're gonna be inviting anybody with the entire state of California to participate if they'd like.
Absolutely. So that's what's happening little by little, kind of like that. It's spreading.
They're going to have to, I mean, frankly, if they're going to do a grassroots approach, they're going to have to narrow their approach to one or two items. I mean, that's really what it's going to have to be. It's got to be local control on issues like law enforcement and zoning, and just move away from it. Otherwise, it'll become a mess. So I think ultimately that's what you'll see as this organization goes forward. Again, you know, like the mayor said, and I certainly agree, we don't know if this has legs or not, but it's worth seeing if it does. I think that's where it goes.
So this even could preclude going towards, remember we talked about going charter city because we thought we might get some more protection for ourselves? You know, that's still on the table. This wouldn't necessarily cause that to change. Okay.
Yeah. And so, like Jeff said, what's evolving with cities is you have organizations like Lee and Contract Cities that have existed. They've been good, but the level of intrusion onto local affairs is such that even those organizations either are not comfortable engaging because it's that caustic, or their member base. You have some cities that are way in support that think that we need intrusion for Sacramento, and there are some that are way on the other side that are like, leave us alone, right? And so because of that, these organizations end up becoming just stale, and they just stop. And so this effort is independent of that. And I think really, it's really more of a reflection of frustration, the fact that they feel that we don't have these traditional associations that are engaging on behalf of cities anymore. And it's a frustration. So it's really evolving. It's interesting.
Contract cities, by historically, evolved as really a single issue organization. As actually carving out the existence of the counties to be able to provide services to these contract cities and not get overcharged for them.
Okay.
And they
That was
banded
their
together.
main-
They did a very, very good job making sure that happened in the legislature. So they have these protections. And then, of course, as it's gotten more complex over the years, it's taken on other issues. And, you know, and I think I'd still, if contract cities, if they rally behind a cause, they're still an effective lobbyist. But with their membership, the number it is, there aren't that many issues they're going to take on. And some of them they're just not going to bother with because it's just painful.
Yeah.
You know, so. Yeah.
And I find this all fascinating because I think time after time, every poll that's out there shows that our electorate has much more of a trust in us as local officials rather than Sacramento, yet we continue to get this intrusion from Sacramento thinking that we don't know what we're doing here at the local level, which I just find really fat. And our sales tax measure is a case in point, right? And that we're able to, you know, our public trusted us with that, and all these state measures that we're going to add additional taxes didn't pass. So, anyways, I'll leave that where it's at. Thank you for that, Mayor Pro Tem Coops.
Would it be safe to say 90% of the legislature is made up of people that were council members originally?
As you think. And
No.
there's more than
Anymore.
there used to be.
It used to be the deal, wasn't it?
Yeah.
There was hope back in the 80s and 90s. There was a lot of hope when they started redistricting following the Pete Wilson debacles, and that there would be local legislators that would be running, and that has happened, local legislative run. Unfortunately, there's a different effect. We're seeing people that move away and seem to forget their local roots, and they move more toward the issues and aspirations of the leadership.
Right.
And it's been frustrating, quite frankly. So while the answer is yes in physical numbers, there has been more local council members who have gone to the legislature. They've not turned out to be effective advocates for the cities, for the most part. There are exceptions. You know, I mean,
But there's a lot of senators and
Right.
assembly members that have not been council members ever, and so there's even more of a disconnect with them because they really have no idea of what we've done here. So, last but not least, Councilmember Hamada.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, I concur. Thank you for bringing this to our attention. This entity is on Facebook. Yeah,
That is correct.
It's part of them on Facebook, and they're going to provide another voice to help facilitate and sending the message out, because every California community is toiling with what Sacramento has done on a number of things, and you know, they've been pressing us on UMs. You know, that's an acronym for unfunded mandates, and they just keep hitting us hard. And this collective effort is going to help drive on those issues, and so that we can be heard. And I think hopefully every city out there is going to know that this is a must. And, if it's not with contract cities, because that's there's only so many there, and the league, but also any group that can help push forward the needs of cities, it's definitely going to hopefully pay off. So again, thank you, Mr. Mayor, for getting this to us, and let's move on.
Thank you for that, Councilmember Hamada. So let's move on to public comments now. Madam Deputy City Clerk, do we have any members of the public wishing to make comments regarding this evening's item 13A?
Mayor, I'll give the public just a moment to utilize the feature. Mayor, I am not seeing any public comments.
All right. If there's no further questions or comments, I would like to make a motion regarding this evening's item 13A to adopt resolution number 20-74 with the friendly amendment from Councilmember Santinez regarding the correction on section 1C on ADU.
Second.
So I have a motion by myself and a second by Councilmember Hamada. Without any further discussion, roll call, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Coops.
Aye.
Councilmember Dutton.
Aye.
Councilmember Hamada.
Aye.
Councilmember Santinez.
Aye.
Mayor Garza.
Aye. Thank you for that, Madam City Clerk. Thank you, colleagues. Item number 14, consent calendar. Are there any items that council members wish to be pulled for separate discussion or consideration from this evening's consent calendar?